There are two ways to spend $250,000 on a 911. The Turbo S will never punish you for being human. The GT3 will punish you every single time. After a decade of ownership, that difference is worth more than any spec sheet. This isn't a track comparison. It's an ownership contract most buyers sign without reading the fine print. And somewhere in that fine print is a hidden mechanical trapdoor, a liability that has nothing to do with the engine, but it can end your ownership experience before you even hit the first service interval. Most comparisons lead with 0 to 60 times and Nürburgring laps. Those numbers are real, but they don't decide if you love your car in year 4. The metric that actually matters lives in your calendar. If you daily one of these cars, over the next decade, you'll start it roughly 3,650 times. You'll sit in traffic. You'll take it to the grocery store. You'll start it on 5 hours of sleep when you'd rather take the SUV. For the majority of GT3 owners, the median number of track days across that decade is 0. Only a minority of owners track them, usually landing in the 3 to 8 days per year range. Turbo S owners see the track even less. You aren't buying a lap time. You're buying 3,650 cold starts. If the sound of that flat 6 doesn't make you smile when you're late for a meeting, the lap time won't save the relationship. This comparison is built on 4 verdict criteria: daily usability, maintenance predictability, sensory reward, and regret potential. I'll score both cars against each, and the winner isn't the one you'd expect. The ownership contract isn't about peak performance, it's about peak consistency. A car that's magical for 5 minutes and miserable for 50 is a bad deal. The Turbo S is a 640 to 701 horsepower appliance that happens to be beautiful. It comes with all-wheel drive, adaptive suspension, and an 8-speed PDK dual-clutch transmission. There's no manual option, so the transmission debate ends before it starts. In normal mode, the ride is supple enough that reviewers have compared the cabin to a living room chair. Road noise stays subdued. The front trunk swallows weekend bags, and the rear seats fit small children or groceries. With winter tires, it'll handle snow and ice with the confidence of a sports sedan, not a tail-happy coupe. In real-world use, the Turbo S absorbs driver error like a sponge. You don't need to be fully awake, you don't need dry pavement, and you don't need the heel-toe downshift. The car meets you where you are, and it delivers brutal acceleration without asking for your full attention. That's the forgiveness margin, and it matters on every commute. Most buyers focus on the MSRP, but there is a shadow invoice every owner pays between 50 and 100,000 miles. If you don't account for this specific range, your investment becomes a liability. Let's look at the actual line items. Over that window, a road-driven Turbo S usually lands between $14,000 and $32,000 in maintenance and consumables. Oil service, $600. Major 40,000-mile service, $5,000. PDK insurance, $1,500. When you see it on a balance sheet, the appliance starts to look like a capital project. A full PDK replacement can run past $20,000, so that $1,500 service is just cheap insurance. The turbochargers, intercoolers, and all-wheel drive components are robust when serviced correctly, and documented high-mileage examples have crossed 200,000 miles without major powertrain failure. The consumables are predictable. A set of high-performance tires usually land between $2,200 and $3,200. On the road, they last 15,000 to 20,000 miles if you drive nice, and closer to 8,000 to 12,000 miles if you are mean to them. That means 5 to 8 sets over 100,000 miles, which adds $10,000 to $18,000 to the running total. All in, a road-biased Turbo S will consume roughly $14,000 to $32,000 in maintenance and consumables across 50 to 100,000 miles. Depreciation is still the largest cost, but the operating budget is knowable and stable. This is a massive win for the investor mindset. You can forecast your decade of ownership with the precision of a corporate balance sheet. There are no hidden mechanical trapdoors here. But that predictability comes with an emotional loss. The Turbo S is so competent that it can feel like a very fast daily driver rather than an occasion. Some owners report the exhaust note is too subdued for a car at this price. Others describe the experience as polished to the point of emotional distance. The car never punishes you, but it also never demands you. If you want a machine that flatters your worst days, this is it. But there is a specific breaking point, a moment where even the most loyal Turbo S owners realize they've made the wrong choice. It usually happens on a Sunday morning, and it's the reason the GT3 exists. If you need every drive to feel like an event, the Turbo S will probably leave you wanting. By the end of this, you'll know which car fits the life you actually have, not the life you imagine yourself having when you buy it. The GT3 is a race car with license plates. It uses a naturally aspirated 4.0-liter flat six that revs to 9,000 RPM. It's rear-wheel drive only. Depending on year, you can choose a 6-speed manual or a 7-speed PDK. But either way, the car was built for the track first and the road second. At low RPM, the engine is surprisingly docile. But the chassis, suspension, and aerodynamics all assume you want to drive fast. That's the demand factor. On the days when you're tired, distracted, or just not in the mood, the GT3 still expects 100% of your attention. It punishes you with noise, stiffness, and a constant reminder that you're underusing it. Cabin noise at highway speeds measures 78.8 decibels. To put that in perspective, that's louder than a vacuum cleaner running in your passenger seat for 3 hours straight. It's not soulful, it's fatiguing. You'll find yourself shouting at your lawyer over the tire roar, which isn't the prestige experience most people expect for $250,000. The suspension is firm on smooth roads and harsh on broken pavement. It has no rear seats. And here's that hidden mechanical trapdoor I mentioned. The front axle lift on a Turbo S, it's a convenience. On a GT3, it is the difference between a functional car and a $250,000 paperweight. If you buy a GT3 without the lift, you aren't just choosing a spec. You're signing a contract to never visit a parking garage or a steep driveway again. Skipping it is the ultimate nightmare scenario. You become the guy blocking traffic for 3 minutes while you try to angle across a curb without losing $3,000 of carbon fiber. It is the single most common reason GT3s end up back on the market within 6 months. In heavy traffic, the manual transmission becomes a workout, and the PDK snaps shifts aggressively even at low speeds. The car attracts attention everywhere it goes, which some owners enjoy and others find exhausting after the 6th grocery run. Insurance also hits harder. A 992 GT3 generally costs 20 to 50% more to insure than a 992 Turbo S, which can add up to a low 5-figure difference over 7 years for the same driver profile. And this is where it starts to matter for your wallet. Maintenance is where the contract gets expensive if you actually use the car as intended. Scheduled services are similar to the Turbo S in base cost, but track use multiplies consumable spending dramatically. A road-driven GT3 usually overlaps the Turbo S in the $14,000 to $32,000 range over 50K to 100K miles, while a track-heavy GT3 can burn through $25,000 to $50,000 in running costs over 50,000 miles. High-performance tires last 8,000 to 12,000 miles on the road, and as few as 3 to 6 track days per set if you drive hard. Steel brake pads last roughly 5 to 10 track days, and rotors wear out every 2 to 3 pad changes. A manual clutch under hard use can need replacement around the 50,000-mile mark. The engine is naturally aspirated and mechanically simpler than a turbo motor, but it lives at high RPM, and that stress shows up in oil consumption, valve train wear, and cooling demands. The storage reality is simple. Most GT3 owners who try to daily the car buy a second vehicle within the first year. They cite noise, ride quality, and the stress of parking in public lots. The GT3 doesn't reward half effort. It either gives you the best drive of your month, or it makes you wonder why you didn't take the SUV. 3 years in, the honeymoon ends. For Turbo S buyers, the most common regret is emotional distance. It is so refined that public roads feel boring. You use 20% of the throttle. The other 80% lives only in your imagination. It feels like a luxury appliance with supercar speed, lacking the occasion you expected for the money. GT3 regrets are sharper. The top issue is the underused manual. Buyers imagine heel-toeing through canyons, but they end up sitting in traffic where the clutch is a chore. Then there's the bucket seat mistake. Fixed back seats look incredible, but turn a 2-hour drive into a chiropractor appointment. The mental weight is real. GT3 owners often feel guilty adding mileage to an asset, so the car becomes a garage queen. Surveys show 40% of owners report some regret, usually driven by spec errors or daily drivability mismatch. You can't daily a GT3 and expect Turbo S comfort. You can't buy a Turbo S and expect GT3 theater. Many buyers choose the GT3 because they want to become someone who tracks every weekend. Neither fantasy survives a Monday morning commute. Run this regret audit. 1. Do you own noise-canceling headphones? If no, the GT3 will wear you out. 2. Is your commute longer than 20 minutes of traffic? If yes, the manual GT3 is a mistake. 3. Does the thought of a $5,000 front lip repair make your stomach turn? If yes, buy the Turbo S. Before you sign either contract, answer 3 questions honestly. First, how many days per year will you genuinely push this car above 7,000 RPM for more than 10 minutes at a time? If the answer is fewer than 5, the GT3 is paying for capability you'll never unlock. Second, do you have the garage space and budget for a second daily driver if the track car becomes too much? Most GT3 owners attempting to live with one car end up adding a second vehicle before the first year is over. The cost of that second car, plus insurance and storage, should be baked into the GT3 purchase decision from day one. Third, are you buying a car to use or a car to protect? A $250,000 car driven 1,000 miles per year costs $250 per mile in depreciation alone. Underuse is the only wrong choice. Buy the GT3 if you'll attend 5 or more track days or spirited mountain drives per year. Buy it if you budget maintenance as the cost of theater and not as an unpleasant surprise. But if you want a naturally aspirated 9,000 RPM experience before regulations make it extinct, the GT3 is for drivers who treat every weekend as a potential event and who accept that weekdays will probably require a second car. Buy the Turbo S if you want one vehicle to handle snow, rain, traffic, road trips, and the occasional autocross. All-wheel drive and PDK remove friction from every drive. Adaptive suspension softens rough roads. The rear seats and front trunk make it the only supercar that can swallow luggage and small children at the same time. Turbo S owners value all-weather security and PDK convenience over raw mechanical theater. To settle the contract, here is the final scorecard reveal. Daily usability, Turbo S takes the point easily. Maintenance predictability, a draw on the road. But the Turbo S wins for the 90% who never track. Sensory reward, GT3 wins by a landslide. Regret potential, Turbo S is the safer bet for almost everyone. The winner isn't a car, it's a lifestyle match. Here's the scenario where you're wrong no matter what you choose. Buy either car as a speculative asset, park it in a garage, and watch underuse drain your wallet faster than depreciation ever could. The 992 Turbo S has depreciated roughly 1 to 2% annually in recent market data, while the 992 GT3 has been closer to roughly 5% annually in the current correction. Both cars still hold value well by modern performance car standards, when driven and maintained. But the Turbo S curve is flatter and the GT3 curve moves around more. Neither car holds value when it becomes a museum piece. The only mistake is letting the car sit while you wait for the market to validate your taste. The Turbo S is for the life you have. The GT3 is for the life you want, but only if you actually live it. Tell me in the comments which camp you're in. I'm Dave, and this is Porsche Pulse.